The Starvation in the Jungle. February 9, 1943. Dawn breaks over the steaming hell of Guadalcanal, where the air hangs thick with the rot of jungle decay and the acrid sting of gunpowder. Private First Class Hiroshi Tanaka stumbles through the underbrush, his boots sinking into mud that's more blood than earth, clutching a Type 99 rifle that's run dry of ammunition 3 days ago. His stomach claws at itself like a wild animal. Meager rice balls, half-rotten and rationed to a handful per day, have been his only sustenance for weeks under Emperor Hirohito's unyielding command. You can almost taste the bitterness on his tongue, the gnawing hunger that turns every step into agony, every breath a reminder of the Bushido code: endure, fight, die honorably. The American Marines are closing in, their M1 Garans barking like distant thunder, shredding the palm fronds overhead. Tanaka's unit, the 2nd Division of the Imperial Japanese Army, has been reduced to shadows, emaciated ghosts haunting the ridges of Mount Austin. Sergeant Major Kenji Yamamoto, his commanding officer, whispers orders through cracked lips, his eyes sunken from dysentery that has claimed half their platoon. "Hold the line," he rasps, invoking the spirit of the samurai, but the words fall flat amid the chorus of malaria-fueled fevers and the relentless buzz of mosquitoes feasting on exposed skin. Tanaka collapses behind a fallen log, his vision blurring as hallucinations creep in, visions of home in Kyoto, of steaming bowls of miso soup that now seem like fairy tales. The propaganda leaflets fluttering from American P-38 Lightnings promise mercy, but who believes the enemy? The gaijin devils, they've been told, torture captives, desecrate bodies. Better a bonsai charge into oblivion than surrender. Yet, as artillery shells from the USS Chicago whine overhead, exploding in fountains of dirt and shrapnel, Tanaka feels the first crack in his resolve. A comrade beside him, Corporal Akira Sato, slumps forward, a bullet through his helmet. Gone in an instant, his last meal, a scavenged lizard shared the night before. The Marines burst through the foliage, their olive-drab uniforms smeared with the same mud that coats Tanaka's khaki tropical fatigues. Shouts in English, "Hands up, surrender," mix with the crackle of radios calling in coordinates. Tanaka's hands tremble as he drops his bayonet. It's not fear, not exactly, but the exhaustion that saps even the will to resist. Rough hands haul him to his feet, zip-tying his wrists with wire from a field kit. No bayonet to the gut, no immediate execution. Just a canteen thrust toward his mouth, cool water trickling down his parched throat. Water? From the enemy? As they march him toward the beachhead, the jungle alive with the moans of the wounded, Tanaka steals glances at his captors. These Americans, tall, well-fed, with helmets adorned in netting and faces grim but not sadistic, chew gum casually, sharing cigarettes from packs that seem endless. One GI, a lanky private from Brooklyn named Eddie Ramirez, offers a Hershey bar wrapper peeking from his pocket, but pulls back when an officer barks an order. Tanaka's mind races. Is this a trick? A prelude to the horrors awaiting in their camps? The group emerges onto Henderson Field, the airstrip scarred by bomb craters, where C-47 Dakotas roar in with supplies. Tanaka is herded into a makeshift holding area, ringed by barbed wire and guarded by MPs with Thompson submachine guns slung low. The sun beats down mercilessly, amplifying the stench of sweat and fear. Medics move among the prisoners, probing wounds with gloved hands, penicillin injections for infections that would have meant death in Japanese field hospitals. Tanaka winces as a needle pierces his arm, but the pain fades quickly, replaced by a strange warmth. Food? They promise it soon, but rumors whisper among the captives. The Americans eat like kings, even in war. Hours stretch to eternity. Tanaka sits cross-legged on the coral gravel, his comrades murmuring in hushed tones. "They'll interrogate us first," Sato's replacement, a young recruit named Taro Nakamura, mutters. "Then the real suffering begins." But as the first crates are cracked open nearby, the aroma hits them. Something rich, savory, utterly foreign. Spam? Bread? Chocolate? Tanaka's stomach roars at betrayal. How could the enemy afford such luxuries while the Emperor's finest starve on scraps? And then, the gate swings open. A sergeant gestures them forward, towards rows of mess tents billowing steam. What awaits inside? A feast that could shatter empires, or a final illusion before the end? The mess tent flaps part like a curtain on a forbidden world. Tanaka steps inside, the humid Guadalcanal air suddenly replaced by the warm, mouth-watering scent of real food, something he hasn't smelled in years. Steam rises from long metal trays lined up under mosquito netting, tended by U.S. Army cooks in sweat-stained aprons, their sleeves rolled high as they scooped generous portions with practiced ease. A GI with a crooked grin and a Brooklyn accent waves him forward. "Come on, buddy, chow's hot." Tanaka hesitates at the threshold, his comrades bunching up behind him, eyes wide, breaths shallow. Sergeant Major Yamamoto, still trying to maintain imperial dignity even with his wrists bound, straightens his back and glares, but even he can't hide the tremor in his hands. They hand Tanaka a metal tray, not a cracked rice bowl, not a rusted canteen cup, but a proper divided tray, the kind he'd seen only in pre-war American movies. The first scoop lands with a soft thud, thick slices of Spam, glistening pink, fried crisp at the edges. Next comes a heap of powdered eggs scrambled with real butter, golden and fluffy. Then white bread, actual white bread, soft and fresh, not the moldy hardtack the Imperial Army issued months ago. A pat of margarine, a spoonful of peach jam that catches the light like stained glass. And then, almost casually, the cook drops 2 Hershey's chocolate bars onto the corner of the tray. 2! Tanaka stares at them as if they're gold ingots. He shuffles to a long bench table where other prisoners already sit in stunned silence, forks scraping metal. No one speaks. The only sounds are chewing, swallowing, the occasional involuntary groan of pleasure. Private Nakamura, the young recruit, tears open a chocolate bar with shaking fingers and bites. His eyes close. A single tear cuts through the grime on his cheek. No one mocks him for it. You can picture it, these men who charged machine guns with bayonets, who endured Guadalcanal's starvation island on roots and rainwater, now eating like children at a festival. One soldier, Lieutenant Junichi Kato of the 230th Infantry Regiment, carefully breaks his bread in half and wraps one piece in a handkerchief, instinct, saving for later, because abundance feels impossible, temporary, a dream that could vanish. Across the tent, American guards watch without malice, some smoking Lucky Strikes, others joking quietly among themselves. One offers cigarettes to the prisoners, Camels, unfiltered, strong. Yamamoto accepts one stiffly, lights it with a Zippo lent by an MP, and inhales deeply. The smoke curls around his gaunt face. For the first time in months, his shoulders relax, just a fraction. Medics move between tables, checking bandages, dispensing atropine tablets for malaria, injecting penicillin into arms scarred by tropical ulcers that would have meant amputation or death in Japanese lines. No beatings, no interrogations yet, just food, medicine, and the low hum of generators powering electric lights that chase away the jungle darkness. Tanaka finishes his tray and stares at the empty divisions, afraid to believe it's real. A cook notices and walks over. "Seconds, pal?" He piles on more without waiting for an answer. Tanaka's stomach, shrunk from months of famine, protests, but he eats anyway, slowly, reverently. Whispers begin among the prisoners. They have this every day? Their soldiers eat like this in the field? How can a nation this rich ever lose a war? The propaganda films in Tokyo, images of starving, decadent Americans, crumble like ash in their minds. But something else stirs too, a deeper unease. If the enemy treats captives better than the emperor treats his own loyal soldiers, what does that say about the cause they've been dying for? As the meal ends and they're led towards barracks,
Actual wooden barracks with cots and mosquito nets. Tanaka passes a stack of crates stamped with bold white letters, U.S. Army Field Ration. Endless rows of them stretch into the shadows, guarded casually, as if there's no fear of running out. That night, under a canvas roof for the first time in months, Tanaka lies awake listening to the soft breathing of surrendered men. The chocolate still lingers on his tongue, sweet and impossible. And in the quiet, a dangerous question begins to form. If the enemy is this strong, this generous, even in victory, how can Japan ever hope to win?
Morning light filters through the barrack slats, painting stripes across the rows of cots where Tanaka and his comrades lie in unaccustomed comfort. For the first time in over a year, no one has kicked them awake at 0400 for a suicidal banzai drill. No sergeant screaming about the glory of dying for the emperor. Just the distant hum of American trucks and the smell of coffee drifting from the guard post. Private Nakamura sits up slowly, clutching his stomach, not from hunger now, but from the unfamiliar weight of a full meal. He looks at Tanaka with something close to fear in his eyes. "I dreamed we were back on the Kokoda Trail," he whispers, "eating grass. Waking up here, it feels wrong." Outside, the camp stirs to life. MPs in crisp uniforms herd the prisoners into formation, not for punishment, but for roll call and morning medical checks. A U.S. Army doctor, Captain Harold Rosen from Chicago, moves down the line with a clipboard, examining tongues, eyes, gums. He pauses at Lieutenant Cato, whose legs are swollen from beriberi. Without a word, Rosen signals for extra vitamins, thiamine tablets handed out like candy. Tanaka watches it all in silence. These Americans aren't the demonic savages of the propaganda reels, the ones shown raping Chinese women, bayoneting babies in Manila. They're young men, many no older than he is, joking about girlfriends back home, complaining about the heat just like any soldier. One guard, a corporal from Texas named Billy Ray, even teaches a group of prisoners how to say howdy in his drawl, laughing when they mangle it. Later that afternoon, they're marched to a shaded area where a projector has been set up, an open-air movie screening, the guards explain. Tanaka braces for more horrors, expecting footage of Japanese atrocities to break their spirit. Instead, the screen flickers to life with newsreels, American factories churning out Sherman tanks by the hundreds, shipyards where Liberty ships slide into the water one after another, faster than Japanese submarines can sink them. Endless fields of wheat in the Midwest, harvested by machines, not starving farmers. Then comes the real shock. Footage of American civilians, women in overalls welding aircraft fuselages, teenagers collecting scrap metal, families planting victory gardens. But they're not gaunt, they're not desperate. The narrator's voice booms through the speakers. While Japan starves its soldiers to feed the war machine, Americans eat steak and drink Coca-Cola. A low murmur ripples through the prisoners. Sergeant Major Yamamoto, who has maintained iron discipline until now, stares at the screen with an expression Tanaka has never seen on his face: doubt. That evening, during recreation hour, something unprecedented happens. The Americans distribute ice cream, actual ice cream, Dixie cups of vanilla scooped from insulated containers flown in by Catalina seaplanes. Tanaka holds the cold cup in his hands, watching it melt in the tropical heat, afraid to taste it. When he finally does, the sweetness explodes across his tongue like nothing he's ever known. Around him, hardened veterans of New Guinea and the Solomons weep openly, not from shame, from the sheer impossibility of it. In the barracks that night, the whispers turned dangerous. No guards nearby, just Japanese voices in the dark. If they can feed prisoners ice cream in the middle of a jungle war, what must their soldiers eat on the front lines? What must their factories be like? And our families back home, Nakamura's voice cracks. The letters say there's no rice, children swelling from hunger, while we... No one finishes the sentence. They don't need to. Tanaka lies on his cot, staring at the canvas ceiling.
The Bushido Code, endure suffering without complaint, die rather than surrender, suddenly feels hollow. The emperor is divine, they were taught. Japan fights for survival against a decaying West. But here is the West, treating its enemies with a generosity Japan reserves only for its gods. For the first time, Tanaka wonders who truly is decaying. Across the camp, similar conversations echo in every barracks. Seeds planted by chocolate bars and penicillin take root in fertile ground. Some men will cling harder to their beliefs. Others begin to crack. And tomorrow, the interrogations begin. Not with torture, but with more food, more cigarettes, and questions that cut deeper than any blade ever could. What happens when an entire army starts to question the war they're dying for?
The next morning, they come for Tanaka individually. 2 MPs escort him across the camp to a small Quonset hut, its corrugated metal walls shimmering in the midday heat. Inside, it's cooler, fans whirring lazily overhead, powered by a generator that never seems to run out of fuel, a wooden table, 2 chairs, a pitcher of iced water beating with condensation. No chains, no blindfold, just an American officer waiting for him, Major Thomas Riley, Intelligence, 1st Marine Division. Riley is lean, sunburned, with a calm voice and eyes that miss nothing. Tanaka sits. His wrists are unbound now. Trust earned by good behavior, they said. Riley pours him a glass of water, slides it across, then, without ceremony, places a pack of Chesterfield cigarettes on the table and a fresh Hershey bar still in its wartime olive drab wrapper. Eat if you want, Riley says through an interpreter, a Nisei sergeant named Daniel Inouye, whose Japanese is flawless, almost too perfect for Tanaka's comfort. We're not in a hurry. Tanaka doesn't touch the chocolate. Not yet. He waits for the questions about troop movements, supply lines, the location of the 17th Army headquarters. Instead, Riley asks something else. How was the food last night? Tanaka blinks. The interpreter repeats it. Tanaka answers carefully, adequate. Riley smiles faintly. Adequate, that's one way to put it. He leans back. Your officers tell their men that Americans are starving, that we'll run out of ships, planes, bullets, that Japan only needs to hold out a little longer. What do you think now, Private Tanaka? Silence stretches. Outside, the distant roar of a corsair taking off from Henderson Field shakes the hut. Tanaka thinks of the endless crates, the ice cream in the jungle, the penicillin that already has the swelling in his gums receding. He says nothing. Riley nods, as if he expected that. He opens a folder, spreads black and white photographs across the table, aerial reconnaissance shots of American shipyards, dozens of carriers under construction at Newport News, rows of B-24 Liberators lined up like toys at Willow Run, then photos of Japanese cities, Tokyo's wooden neighborhoods already scarred by Doolittle's raid, Osaka's docks empty of merchant ships. Your Navy lost 4 carriers at Midway. We lost 1. We replaced it in months. You're still trying to replace yours. Tanaka stares at the photos. The numbers don't lie. The sheer scale doesn't lie. Riley pushes the chocolate closer. Your emperor tells you this is a war of survival, but look around this camp. We're feeding you better than your own quartermasters ever did. Why do you think that is? The question hangs in the air like smoke. Tanaka finally picks up the Hershey bar, unwraps it slowly, takes a bite. The sweetness floods his mouth again, but this time it tastes different, bittersweet. Back in the barracks that evening, the interrogations cycle through. One by one, men returned quieter than they left. Lieutenant Kato sits on his cot, head in hands. Sergeant Major Yamamoto paces, muttering about honor and deception, but even he can't explain the abundance anymore. Private Nakamura, the youngest, asks the question no one wants to voice out loud. If everything they told us was a lie, then what are we fighting for? Whispers spread faster than malaria. Some men harden, clinging to Bushido like a life raft. Others begin to talk openly, first in pairs, then in small groups.
A few even ask the guards for English lessons. Others request Red Cross parcels addressed to families back home, parcels that will carry news of survival and perhaps something more. In the weeks that followed, hundreds of Japanese prisoners on Guadalcanal and later islands volunteer information, not out of torture, but out of a slow, corrosive realization. The empire that demanded their lives could not even feed them. The enemy they were taught to hate treated them with a humanity their own leaders denied. Tanaka lies awake again, listening to the jungle night. The chocolate wrapper crinkles in his pocket, a small, secret rebellion. By the time these men are shipped stateside to permanent camps in places like Honolulu or Angel Island, many carry something heavier than chains. Doubt. A doubt that will echo through the Pacific War, one surrendered soldier at a time. Because once a man has tasted abundance after starvation, once he has seen the truth with his own eyes, he can never fully unsee it. And for an empire built on unbreakable spirit and willing sacrifice, that kind of doubt is more dangerous than any American bomb.
Months later, the war grinds on across the Pacific, but something has changed in the shadows. Tanaka and hundreds like him are loaded onto a Liberty ship bound for the United States. Clean clothes, full bellies, Red Cross inspectors watching every step. As the convoy steams north under escort from Fletcher-class destroyers, Tanaka stands at the rail watching Guadalcanal disappear into the haze. He is no longer the same man who stumbled out of the jungle. None of them are. In camps across America, places like Camp McCoy in Wisconsin, Fort Missoula in Montana, and the sprawling stockade at Honolulu in Hawaii, tens of thousands of Japanese POWs arrive to find the same impossible reality. Barracks with heating, showers with hot water, baseball games organized between compounds, weekly movies, canteens where prisoners can buy Coca-Cola and ice cream with scrip earned from light work details. Word spreads back to Japan, slowly at first, then like wildfire. It starts with letters. The Geneva Convention allows prisoners to write home. Censors on both sides read every line, but careful phrases slip through. I am well treated. Food is plentiful. Health restored. Japanese military intelligence intercepts some of these postcards and suppresses them, but others reach families in Hiroshima, Nagoya, rural villages where rice rations have dwindled to almost nothing. Mothers and wives begin to whisper, if prisoners are eating white bread and chocolate while soldiers on the front lines starve, what does that mean for our sons still fighting? On isolated islands like Saipan in Okinawa, Japanese commanders notice something new in 1944 and 1945. Surrender rates climb. Not mass collapses, Bushido still holds many in its iron grip, but enough men begin raising white flags, hands in the air, shouting mercy in broken English learned from propaganda leaflets that promise good treatment. American psychological warfare teams, under the Office of War Information, print millions of those leaflets. Photos of smiling Japanese POWs in U.S. camps holding trays of food, playing volleyball. Safe surrender passes dropped by B-29s over Iwo Jima. The message is simple. Live, eat, see your family again. And it works, more than any bomb. Historians will later calculate that over 40,000 Japanese servicemen surrendered during the Pacific War, a number unthinkable in 1942 or 1943. Many cite the same reason in post-war interviews. They had heard from comrades, from letters, from rumors that could no longer be dismissed. The Americans did not torture. They fed you. They healed you. They let you live with dignity. In Tokyo, the Kempeitai, the dreaded military police, grows frantic. They arrest families who received defeatist letters from POWs. They double down on propaganda. Americans are lying. The photos are faked. Surrender means dishonor in death. But the cracks are already there, spreading through an empire built on the myth of spiritual superiority over material weakness. Tanaka, now working on a farm in California's Central Valley under relaxed guard, part of a labor program to harvest crops, reads newspapers the guards leave lying around.
Headlines about the fall of Saipan, the firebombing of Tokyo, the unstoppable advance of MacArthur's forces through the Philippines. He thinks of Sergeant Major Yamamoto, who chose seppuku in the camp rather than live with surrender. He thinks of young Nakamura, who learned English and now translates for the camp administration. And he thinks of the chocolate bar in his pocket the day he was captured, the first crack in a wall that eventually brought an empire to its knees. Because wars are not won only by bullets and bombs. Sometimes they are won by a Hershey bar, a can of Spam, and a simple act of humanity that no propaganda machine can erase. In August 1945, when the Emperor's voice crackles over the radio announcing surrender, many Japanese soldiers weep not just for defeat, but for the lives they might have saved if they had believed the impossible truth sooner. The abundance that shocked starving men in a Guadalcanal mess tent became in the end one of the quietest weapons of the war.